Thank you for joining us today. Today we're going to be talking about some of our success with this past legislative session. CVIC was fortunate to partner with several of its sister agencies on some historical funding for domestic violence and sexual assault programs throughout the state. We're going to start with you, Representative Ista. You actually helped us author 2 bills that will become laws here in August. And another bill that you were instrumental in being supportive of also was a funding bill, House Bill 1004. Came in with an ask of $17.65 million. After the smoke cleared and the dust settled, we were at $7.5 million. I'm curious what prompted you to support that?
I think it's a pretty easy decision, really, for me. I've seen firsthand in my role as an assistant state's attorney the great work that CVIC does, and I know your sister agencies across the state do, helping to prevent interpersonal violence, providing services to children and families across our community, our county, and other agencies across the state. So I think it was a really easy decision. And when you look at it, that $7.5 million, that seems like a big figure, but that's less than 1/2 of 1/10 of 1% of our $19 billion approximately state budget. So I always go back to in school when we learned about that hierarchy of needs. If people aren't safe, you can't move on to higher level needs. So investing that small of a portion into just physical safety for people across the state, it's going to have huge downstream effects on community safety, on housing, on childcare, on workforce, making sure people can go to work in the morning because they're safe at home at night. It's such a small investment for such a big return that I'm glad the legislature supported it. And I hope next session we support it at an even higher level.
I appreciate that so much. So I'm curious your perspective as someone who's been so instrumental, not only in helping us reshape laws, but now help fund them, what your hopes and dreams are. Not only as a lawmaker, but as an attorney.
It's relatively straightforward. It's breaking the cycle of interpersonal violence. CVIC always talks about its goal of ending that in 2 generations. The state can partner on that goal through this relatively modest investment in terms of a massive state budget. I think we also have to recognize Governor Burgum's office in this. His administration was very supportive of it. And it's really good to see people from across the political spectrum come together and say, this is a role for the state government to play. This is a good investment of funds because whether it's intervention programming for offenders that we know reduces their future contact with the criminal justice system by 70, 80, 90%, or emergency shelter services, child care exchange service, all of those things that maybe some families that don't need them take for granted are happening, don't just happen by themselves. So if we can partner as a state with the good work that agencies like CVIC and others are doing and partnering with the private sector to help fund as well, we're going to move the state forward on these really important issues.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And Chris, you and I have become old friends now. Right. You and I worked together as colleagues. We're part of a coalition. Can you explain for our viewers what the coalition is?
Absolutely. So there are 19 member programs across the state of North Dakota, and we're all crisis centers. So by administrative definition, we're all crisis centers. We're all united under the umbrella of a coalition, right? So the coalition really is our amplified, unified voice. And so there's times where we talk about the coalition and we're representing all programs, but then there's also times where we're talking about sister agencies, and that's individual organizations throughout communities. And so really our combined efforts this last legislative session is what made everything so successful.
And you are someone who is also very good on your feet. You provided tons of testimony. As you think about not only the work we did as a coalition, but even your own agency, what are your aspirations and goals when you think about domestic violence?
Thank you so much, Koya, and Representative Ista. Excellent. Thank you for all your comments. It's really moving to hear you talk about our industry, because we hear each other on a frequent basis, but hearing outside stakeholders talk about our work is so moving. So thank you. There's 19 member programs and we're all in different places. Some are large organizations, some are small organizations. The services look a little bit different, but we're all united in mission. And so one of the things that became so apparent during COVID is that we were just so undermatched, that we saw violence spike and take on kind of a life of its own. And so many programs struggled to hold on to staff. We have sister agencies whose staff are dramatically underpaid. And so I think that this additional funding will do so much for the industry. And I think that every agency will use it a little bit differently based on what their needs and their strategic vision is. But I'm really, really excited to see how programs can strengthen their presence in their communities to serve more people impacted by these issues.
We have quite a few rural partners in our coalition and have wanted to grow for some time now. And maybe now we'll have the resources to do that thanks to your help. So, when you think about your aspirations for making the world a better place, what keeps you up at night? I'm curious if the things you're seeing in Fargo versus Grand Forks.
Some of our most vulnerable folks in our community, and of course across the state, particularly Native American women, are victimized by these issues at a far greater rate than some of their white counterparts. Native Americans make up, I think, about 4% of Fargo's population, but they're a third of our victims. And those numbers, just I cannot reconcile that. So I think there's so much more we could do for folks who are historically marginalized or disenfranchised. I hope that we can continue to learn from those folks and serve them better in a more culturally appropriate way. I do think that all of us have some work to do around that. And because we see victimization levels so high within the population, we have to recognize that there's more going on. So that's one issue that really, really I can't shake. The other one is so many of us in the industry also serve children, and so CVIC, Rape and Abuse Crisis Center, we have very strong children's programming. Child sexual abuse is another issue that I think is so much more prevalent than we understand. And so I'm really hoping that the organizations that are already serving children can really reinforce our services, and maybe some of our partners who don't serve children can use some of this additional money to maybe explore how they can reinforce child safety within their communities.
That's such a great point. So you were part of helping Representative Ista, the others at this legislature, record-breaking funding, historic move. What are you most excited about?
When I look across the industry, these are some of the most talented, committed, intelligent folks who are working on these issues, folks that really understand the dynamics of our issues. So there's so many strengths. We have so many strengths as an industry. And one of our deficits have always been funding. And so this will definitely fill gaps for programs, will allow programs to maybe explore a little bit more innovative solutions to this problem. And then I'm excited to go back to the legislature and share with them all of our success and ask for more money.
Me too. Well, I just want to thank you again for being here. Appreciate it so much.
Thank you so much.